Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Pioneer, watching the endless stars through the main view screen. 3 months had passed since they left Earth's orbit, and today would mark humanity's first official contact with alien life. The excitement among his crew was impossible to hide. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Ben Hayes from his station. His hands moved quickly over the controls as strange symbols appeared on his screen. "It's definitely not human in origin." Jake walked over to Ben's station and studied the alien markings. After 2 years of preparation for this moment, it still felt unreal. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now, sir. The computer is running translation protocols." Ben paused as new data streamed across his monitor. "Sir, I think they want to board our ship." Dr. Lisa Grant hurried onto the bridge, her medical scanner already in hand. As the chief medical officer, she had spent years preparing for this day. "Captain, if they want to come aboard, I need to know their biological requirements immediately." "Steady, everyone," Jake said, keeping his voice calm. "This is what we trained for. Ben, send them our standard greeting protocol. Let them know. We welcome peaceful contact." The reply came within minutes. The alien ship appeared on their sensors, sleek and silver, easily 3 times the size of the Pioneer. It moved with a grace that human ships could never match, sliding through space like it belonged there. "They're requesting permission to dock, Captain," Ben reported. "Their ship is scanning us right now. I'm picking up some kind of energy beam." Lieutenant Alex Turner, the security chief, stepped forward. "Captain, should I have the security team ready?" "No weapons, Alex. Keep your team nearby but out of sight. We want to show them we're peaceful." Jake straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Open the docking bay doors." The alien ship attached to their vessel with barely a sound. Through the security cameras, they watched as 5 tall, thin beings walked through the docking tunnel. They wore smooth, pearl-colored suits that seemed to glow softly in the artificial light. Jake met them in the main docking bay with Dr. Grant and Lieutenant Turner. The aliens were even more impressive in person. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with long, elegant limbs and large, dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The leader stepped forward and spoke in perfect English, though his voice had a musical quality that made every word sound like a song. "I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. We greet you, humans of Earth." "Welcome aboard the USS Pioneer," Jake replied, trying to keep the amazement out of his voice. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Grant, our chief medical officer, and Lieutenant Alex Turner, our security chief." Veltar's large eyes focused on each of them in turn. "We have monitored your species for some time. Your arrival in our space was unexpected. We must conduct standard evaluation procedures before we can proceed with formal contact." Dr. Grant stepped forward eagerly. "We'd be happy to cooperate with any medical or biological scans you need. I've prepared detailed files on human physiology and our ship's life support systems." "That would be most helpful," Veltar said, though something in his tone made Alex shift uncomfortably. "We must understand your survival requirements completely. This is necessary for the safety of all species involved." Jake led the alien delegation through the ship, starting with the medical bay. Dr. Grant explained everything in detail, from the atmospheric processors that maintained their oxygen levels to the medical equipment designed to treat injuries in space. "Fascinating," Veltar said as he examined their emergency medical supplies. "And humans can survive severe physical trauma?" "Oh yes," Dr. Grant replied proudly. "Human beings are remarkably resilient. We can survive in temperatures from below freezing to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We can go days without water and weeks without food if necessary." The aliens exchanged what might have been concerned glances. One of Veltar's companions, a slightly smaller being with silver markings on his suit, began taking detailed scans of their medical equipment. "And your atmospheric requirements?" Veltar asked. "We need oxygen, of course, but humans can survive in surprisingly harsh conditions," Dr. Grant continued. "We can function at high altitudes with low oxygen, in high-pressure environments, even in partial vacuum for short periods with proper protection." Alex noticed that the aliens seemed to grow more agitated with each revelation. Their scanning devices worked constantly, recording every detail of the ship's life support systems. Your stress response mechanisms, the silver-marked alien asked in a voice that sounded almost worried. How do humans function under extreme pressure? Quite well, actually, Dr. Grant said. Human adrenaline response allows us to perform at peak efficiency even when injured or under severe psychological stress. It's one of our most useful evolutionary adaptations. The aliens spent 3 hours examining every aspect of human biology and technology. They studied the ship's emergency systems, the crew's medical records, and even the food preparation areas. Their questions became increasingly specific and urgent. Your species fights while wounded? Veltar asked Alex during their tour of the security section. Human soldiers can continue combat operations even with significant injuries, Alex confirmed. It's part of our training and our natural biological response to threats. By the time the tour ended, the aliens seemed deeply troubled. They huddled together near the docking bay, speaking in their own language in rapid musical phrases that sounded almost like arguments. Finally, Veltar approached Captain Morrison. We have completed our initial evaluation. We must return to our ship to process this information with our superiors. Of course, Jake said. We look forward to continuing our discussions. Perhaps you could share some information about your own species and culture? That will be considered, Veltar replied, but his tone suggested the opposite. We will contact you soon with our findings. The aliens left as quickly as they had arrived, their ship detaching from the Pioneer and moving to what seemed like a safe distance. Jake watched them go with growing unease. That didn't go as well as I hoped, Dr. Grant said, joining him at the observation window. No, Jake agreed, watching the alien ship's lights blink in the darkness. Something we told them scared them. The question is what? None of them realized that humanity had just failed its first galactic evaluation in the worst possible way. The alarm bells on the USS Pioneer screamed through the corridors at 3 in the morning. Captain Jake Morrison rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his uniform, his heart pounding as he rushed to the bridge. The emergency lights cast everything in red shadows. Report, Jake called out as he stepped onto the bridge. Ben Hayes looked up from his communication station, his face pale. Captain, we're receiving hundreds of transmissions from all over this sector. The Zephyrians are broadcasting on every frequency. Put it on speaker, Jake ordered, settling into his command chair. The bridge filled with the musical voice of Commander Veltar, but now his tone carried none of the calm politeness from their meeting. The words came fast and urgent, overlapping with dozens of other alien voices all speaking at once. Can you translate any of it? Jake asked. Dr. Lisa Grant hurried onto the bridge, still pulling on her lab coat. I've been working on their language patterns since they left. Give me a few minutes with the computer. Ben's fingers flew over his controls. Captain, these aren't just random broadcasts, they're coordinated. Every Zephyrian ship in this sector is transmitting the same basic message. There, Dr. Grant said, pointing at her screen. I've got partial translation. The word that keeps repeating is, oh no. What is it, Doctor? Jake demanded. Quarantine, she whispered. They're declaring a quarantine. The main view screen flickered to life, showing Commander Veltar's face. His large dark eyes were wide with what looked like fear. Behind him, other Zephyrians moved with quick, panicked motions. People of Earth, Veltar began, his English stilted but understandable. The Zephyrian Science Council has completed analysis of your species. You have been classified as Class 12. Biological hazard. Immediate sector isolation protocols are now in effect. Jake stood up slowly. Biological hazard? What the hell does that mean? The transmission continued. Your species' survival capabilities present unacceptable risk to galactic stability. No human vessel may leave your solar system. Evacuation procedures will begin immediately for the safety of all sapient life. Dr. Grant stared at the screen in shock. They think we're dangerous. They think our biology makes us a threat. Lieutenant Alex Turner joined them on the bridge, already dressed and armed. Captain, our long-range sensors are picking up massive ship movements throughout Zephyrian space. Looks like fleet mobilization. How many ships? Jake asked. though he dreaded the answer. Hundreds, sir, maybe thousands. They're all heading toward human space. The transmission from Veltar cut off, replaced by automated warnings in dozens of alien languages. Dr. Grant worked frantically to translate as much as she could, her computer struggling to keep up with the flood of information. Jake, you need to hear this, she said, her voice shaking. They're broadcasting detailed warnings about human physiology to every species in their empire. What kind of warnings? Dr. Grant read from her screen. Extreme temperature tolerance, ability to function while severely injured, resistance to biological and chemical agents, capacity for sustained combat operations under fatal stress levels. She looked up at him. They're describing us like we're weapons. Ben turned from his station. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from other alien species now. They're scared. Really scared. Jake sank back into his chair. Put together everything we told them yesterday. What did we say that could have caused this? Alex pulled up his security recordings. We told them about human endurance, about fighting while wounded, about surviving in hostile environments. Things we thought were normal. And our medical capabilities, Dr. Grant added. Our ability to heal from trauma, to operate in conditions that would kill most Earth species. To them, we must seem like monsters. Engineer Kate Miller's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, I've been monitoring their ship designs through our sensor logs. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly fragile. Their ships can't handle the kind of stress and damage that our vessels are built to withstand. What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean they build everything for perfect conditions, sir. No redundant systems, no damage control protocols. If something goes wrong, their ships just shut down. They've never had to build anything tough because they've never faced real danger. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. So when they scanned our ship and saw all our emergency systems, our backup life support, our medical trauma equipment, they saw a warship, Alex finished. They saw a species that builds everything expecting to fight for survival. Dr. Grant pulled up more translations. Listen to this. They're calling Earth a death world. They think any planet that produces life forms like us must be incredibly hostile. They're not wrong. Kate's voice came from the intercom again. Captain, I've been thinking about this. Earth is hostile compared to most planets. Ice ages, massive extinctions, constant climate change, natural disasters, disease, predators. We evolved to survive things that would wipe out most species. Ben looked up from his station with growing alarm. Captain, we're receiving a direct transmission. It's Commander Veltar again. The screen showed Veltar, but now he looked exhausted and frightened. Captain Morrison, I am authorized to make one final offer. Your species will be relocated to appropriate worlds under Zephyrian protection. You will be provided with safe environments suitable for peaceful development. That sounds like imprisonment, Alex muttered. Veltar continued. You have 12 standard hours to consider this offer. After that time, enforcement fleets will arrive to ensure Galactic safety. Please understand, we do not wish to harm your species. We seek only to contain the threat you represent. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Contain the threat, Jake repeated slowly. They want to put us in a zoo. Dr. Grant was reading more intercepted communications. Jake, they're not just scared of us. They're terrified. Some of these broadcasts are calling for immediate sterilization of human space. What changed their minds? Jake asked. Common sense, probably, Alex said grimly. They realize that if they try to wipe us out, they'll have to fight us. And based on what they learned about human biology, that's not a fight they want. Ben turned from his communications console. Captain, I'm detecting ship movements at the edge of our solar system. Long-range sensors show at least 50 large vessels taking position around Earth. Jake stood up and walked to the view screen, staring out at the stars that no longer seemed friendly. How long to get back to Earth? At maximum speed, 8 hours, Kate replied over the intercom. Then we'd better get moving, Jake said. Earth needs to know what's coming, and they need to know that our first contact just became our first war, the beer. USS Pioneer turned toward home, racing against time to warn humanity that their greatest strength had just become their greatest threat. The emergency session at Earth Defense Command had been going for 6 hours straight. General Sam Parker stood at the head of the massive conference table, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. The holographic display above them showed dozens of alien ships positioned around their solar system like a blockade. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," President Carol Washington said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "These aliens think we're too dangerous to be allowed free movement in space because we can survive harsh conditions." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, nodded grimly. "Based on Captain Morrison's report and our analysis of the alien transmissions, yes. To them, our basic survival capabilities make us look like biological weapons." "That's insane," muttered General Parker. "We're talking about basic human biology here." "Not basic to them," Dr. Rodriguez corrected. "I've been studying the data from their scans. Their species evolved on a planet with perfect climate stability. No ice ages, no mass extinctions, no environmental pressures. They've never had to develop the kind of resilience that humans take for granted." The main screen switched to show intercepted alien communications. The translations scrolled past in a steady stream of warnings and evacuation notices. Commander Luke Foster of the Space Defense Force read them aloud. "Warning to all species. Humans demonstrate extreme survival capabilities, including function under severe trauma, resistance to environmental toxins, adaptation to hostile atmospheric conditions, and sustained combat effectiveness while injured." He looked up. "They're treating us like we're some kind of plague." President Washington turned to Dr. Rodriguez. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, are we actually dangerous to other species?" Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a comparison chart on her tablet. "In a direct sense, no. But from their perspective, we're terrifying. Imagine if you encountered a species that could survive being shot, could fight effectively in environments that would kill you instantly, and could adapt to almost any hostile condition. You'd probably want to keep them contained too." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. General Parker was the first to speak. "So they want to relocate us to what they call safer worlds. What does that actually mean?" "Prison planets," Commander Foster said bluntly. "I've analyzed their proposed relocation sites. Small worlds with controlled environments, no technology beyond basic agriculture, complete isolation from the rest of galactic civilization." "A zoo," President Washington said quietly. "They want to put humanity in a zoo." The conference room. Doors burst open as Communications Director Janet Mills rushed in with a tablet in her hands. "Madam President, we're receiving broadcasts from the alien ships. They're addressing Earth directly." The main screen changed to show a Zephyrian that wasn't Commander Veltar. This alien wore more elaborate clothing and had silver markings around his large eyes. When he spoke, his English was much better than Veltar's had been. "People of Earth, I am Strategic Commander Korthul of the Zephyrian Evacuation Fleet. We understand this situation is difficult for your species to accept. We offer you safe relocation to worlds better suited to peaceful development." President Washington stood up. "Put me through to them." "Madam President," General Parker warned, "we should think about this carefully." "I've thought enough," she replied. "Open the channel." The alien commander's image flickered as the connection was established. His large, dark eyes seemed to look directly at President Washington through the screen. "Commander Korthul, President," Washington began. "I am President Carol Washington, leader of the United States and speaking for all of Earth. We appreciate your concern for galactic safety, but we cannot accept forced relocation." "President Washington," Korthul replied, his musical voice carrying what sounded like genuine sadness, "your species cannot be allowed to spread through the galaxy unchecked. The worlds we offer provide everything humans need for a peaceful existence." "Everything except freedom," President Washington shot back. "We're not a threat to anyone. We're explorers, not conquerors." "You say this because you do not understand what you are," Korthul said. "Your species can survive radiation that would kill us. You can fight effectively while suffering injuries that would incapacitate any civilized being. You build your technology, to withstand destruction that would cripple our finest ships. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. Commander, these capabilities developed because Earth is a harsh world. We're not weapons. We're survivors. The result is the same, Corthell replied. A species with your capabilities cannot be allowed unrestricted access to civilized space. Other races would have no defense against you. General Parker moved to the screen. What if we agreed to certain restrictions? Supervised contact, limited expansion, some kind of monitoring system. Your species has already demonstrated the ability to hide your true nature, Corthell said. During first contact, you presented yourselves as peaceful explorers. Only detailed scanning revealed your biological weapons capabilities. Biological weapons? President Washington's voice rose. We told your people about our medical systems and emergency procedures. How is helping injured people a weapon? You can heal from trauma that would kill any other species. You can function effectively while your bodies are failing. To us, this is not medicine. It is military enhancement. Commander Foster leaned over to General Parker. Sir, our satellites are detecting more ships moving into position. They're not just blockading us anymore. They're surrounding us. The alien commander seemed to hear the whispered conversation. We do not wish conflict, but we cannot allow your species to threaten galactic stability. You have 6 hours to begin voluntary evacuation procedures. And if we refuse? President Washington asked. Then we will be forced to implement involuntary relocation protocols, Corthell said. Please understand, we take no pleasure in this action. We are trying to save both your species and ours. The transmission ended, leaving the conference room in tense silence. Dr. Rodriguez was staring at her data tablet with a strange expression. There's something else, she said slowly. I've been analyzing the alien ship designs and technology from our sensor data. What is it? General Parker asked. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly specialized. They've built everything for perfect conditions. No redundancy, no damage control, no backup systems. She looked up at the room. Their ships are more like works of art than vehicles built for real use. Meaning what? President Washington asked. Meaning they've never had to build anything tough because they've never faced real danger. But we have. Every piece of human technology is built to survive because we come from a world that tries to kill us every day. Commander Foster was studying the tactical displays. Madam President, if they try to force this evacuation, we'll have to resist. Can we win? President Washington asked quietly. General Parker looked at the alien fleet positions, then at the data about their technology. I don't know, but I know one thing for certain. If we don't fight for our freedom now, we'll never get another chance. President Washington nodded slowly. Then we'd better start preparing. If they want to cage humanity, they're going to discover just how dangerous we can really be. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the alien evacuation ships continued their slow approach, unaware that they were about to learn why evolution had made humans so hard to kill. Major Chris Bennett crouched behind an overturned car in downtown Chicago, watching the alien evacuation ships hover over the city like metal clouds. Strange blue beams swept across the streets, and wherever they touched, people simply collapsed into unconscious heaps. The Zephyrians had begun their forced evacuation 3 hours ago. Unit 7 report. Chris spoke into his radio. Still conscious, sir, came the reply from Sergeant Kelly Davis. Whatever they're using to knock people out isn't working on everyone. About 30% of the population is still awake. Chris nodded grimly. The aliens hadn't expected human resistance to their sleep weapons. Neither had the humans, but Dr. Tony Clark's emergency broadcasts from the CDC had explained it quickly. Human biology was more varied than the aliens had calculated. Some people were naturally resistant to their pacification technology. Sir, we've got movement, called Private Jim Stone from his position near the Willis Tower. Alien ground forces are deploying. They're trying to round up the people who are still awake. Chris raised his binoculars and watched as tall, thin figures in glowing suits moved through the streets. They carried devices that looked like oversized flashlights, but Chris knew they were some kind of advanced stun weapons. The problem was, The aliens moved slowly and carefully, like they were afraid of breaking something. "They're not soldiers," Chris muttered to himself. "They're scientists trying to do a soldier's job." His radio crackled. "Major Bennett, this is command. We need you to link up with the civilian resistance groups. Dr. Grant from the Pioneer is organizing something in the subway tunnels." Chris signaled his team, and they began moving through the abandoned streets. The alien ships overhead were massive, but they stayed high in the atmosphere. Their ground forces were scattered and seemed confused by the urban environment. These beings had clearly never fought in a city before. They found Dr. Lisa Grant in the old Red Line tunnel beneath the city. She had set up a makeshift medical station and was treating people who had been hit by alien stun weapons. Around her, dozens of civilians worked on tasks Chris didn't recognize. "Major Bennett," Dr. Grant said, looking up from a patient. "Good timing. We need military coordination for what we're planning." "What exactly are you planning, Doctor?" "Survival," she replied simply. "The aliens expected to pacify the entire population quickly and efficiently. Instead, they've got millions of people scattered across the city, many of whom are immune to their sleep weapons. They're not prepared for this kind of resistance." An older man approached them, carrying what looked like a modified tablet computer. "Major, I'm Dr. Tony Clark from the CDC. I've been studying the alien technology they're using. And it's remarkable, but it's also incredibly limited. Their stun weapons work perfectly under laboratory conditions, but they can't adapt to variables. Different human metabolisms, different stress levels, different genetic factors. Their technology assumes everyone will react the same way." Chris looked around the tunnel. People were working on various projects, some modifying electronics, others preparing supplies. "What are all these people doing?" "Adapting," Dr. Grant said, with a slight smile. "It's what humans do best. We figured out how to block their scanning beams with aluminum foil and old car parts. We're using the subway system to move around because their ships can't see underground. And we're building communication networks using ham radios and cell phone parts. Basically," Dr. Clark added, "we're doing everything they didn't expect. They planned for a clean, efficient evacuation. Instead, they're getting urban guerrilla warfare." Chris's radio buzzed. "Major, this is Captain Morrison from the Pioneer. We're in orbit and monitoring the situation. The alien fleet is getting frustrated. They're requesting reinforcements." "How many reinforcements?" Chris asked. "Unknown, but their communications suggest they're having similar problems in cities worldwide. Turns out humans are a lot harder to catch than they expected." "Doctor," Grant stood up from her patient. "Major, we need to coordinate with the other resistance cells. The aliens are regrouping and they're going to try a different approach." As if summoned by her words, the alien ships above them began to change position. The blue stun beams stopped, replaced by a different kind of energy that made the air itself feel thick and heavy. "What's that?" Chris asked, feeling suddenly dizzy. Dr. Clark checked his modified scanner. "Atmospheric manipulation. They're trying to increase the air pressure and change the oxygen content. It would incapacitate most species immediately. But not humans," Dr. Grant said, watching her readings. "We can function in a much wider range of atmospheric conditions than they realize. This will slow us down, but it won't stop us." Chris felt the pressure change like a weight on his chest, but he could still move and think clearly. Around him, other people were struggling but not collapsing. The aliens had miscalculated again. "Sir," came a voice from his radio. "This is Sergeant Martinez from the south side. The aliens are trying to set up processing centers in the parks. They're bringing in people they've captured, but they're having trouble with the equipment." "What kind of trouble?" "Their machines keep breaking down. Looks like they're designed for perfect conditions, but Chicago in November isn't exactly perfect. The cold is affecting their electronics." Dr. Clark laughed despite the situation. "Of course, they come from a world with stable climate. They've probably never had to deal with weather." Commander Helen Davis's voice came through on the military channel. "All units, this is Earth Defense Command. We're getting reports from around the globe. The alien evacuation is failing. They're encountering resistance they didn't anticipate." "What kind of resistance?" Chris asked. "Human resistance. People are hiding in environments the aliens can't operate in." Arctic bases, deep ocean facilities, desert compounds, underground bunkers. Everywhere humans can survive, but the aliens can't. Dr. Grant was monitoring alien communications on her equipment. They're talking about bringing in specialized units, something called hostile environment troops. Do they have those? Chris asked. Apparently not, Dr. Clark said, reading over her shoulder. They're having to develop them, which means they're adapting their technology to deal with us instead of the other way around. Chris realized what that meant. They're learning from us, we're teaching them how to fight. Yes, but slowly, Dr. Grant pointed out. Their whole civilization is based on precision and planning. Rapid adaptation isn't their strength. It's ours. The radio crackled with reports from around the world. Humans were fighting back in ways the aliens hadn't expected. Not with advanced weapons or military might, but with the simple, stubborn refusal to give up that had carried humanity through ice ages and disasters. Major, Dr. Clark said, we're getting transmissions from other species in the alien empire. Some of them are watching this conflict with interest. What kind of interest? The kind that suggests they're wondering if the Zephyrians are as invincible as they claim to be. Apparently, this is the first time anyone has successfully resisted a Zephyrian evacuation order. Chris looked around the tunnel at the people working to survive, to resist, to adapt to impossible circumstances. They were doing what humans had always done when faced with extinction. They were refusing to die quietly. Then we'd better make sure we win, he said, because if we don't, nobody else will ever get the chance to try. Above them, the alien ships continued their attempts to pacify the city, unaware that they were teaching humanity's potential allies a very important lesson about the supposed invincibility of the Zephyrian Empire. Commander Ryan Cooper floated in the damaged cockpit of his fighter ship, 3 miles above the ruins of what used to be Denver. Blood from a head wound had dried on his helmet, but he could still see clearly enough to pilot. Around him, the battle for Earth's orbit raged between human ships and the Zephyrian fleet. Phoenix Leader, this is ground control, came the voice of General Sam Parker through the static. We're tracking multiple alien ships breaking formation. They appear to be retreating. Ryan checked his instruments with hands that should have been shaking from blood loss but weren't. His fighter had taken hits that would have destroyed any Zephyrian ship, but human engineering kept it flying. Confirmed ground control. Enemy vessels are pulling back to defensive positions. Copy that, Phoenix Leader. We're also receiving strange transmissions from ships that aren't Zephyrian. Can you investigate? Ryan turned his damaged fighter toward the source of the unknown signals. As he flew closer, he saw ships unlike anything in the Zephyrian fleet. These vessels were longer, more angular, with red markings along their hulls. His radio crackled with a new voice speaking rough but understandable English. Human fighter, this is War Chief Scar of the Skarn Republic. We request permission to speak with your leaders. Ground control, are you getting this? Ryan asked. We hear it, Phoenix Leader. Bring them down to Landing Zone 7. We'll have a reception committee ready. An hour later, Ryan stood in the underground command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain, watching as 3 reptilian beings walked through the blast doors. They were shorter than the Zephyrians, but built like tanks with thick scales and powerful muscles. The leader wore battle armor that looked like it had seen real combat. General Parker stepped forward. I'm General Sam Parker, Earth Defense Force. You said you wanted to speak with our leaders. The reptilian leader nodded, a gesture that looked strange on his angular head. I am War Chief Scar. We have been watching your conflict with the Zephyrians. Your species fights with impressive skill. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, who had been studying alien communications for days, moved closer. Are you part of the Zephyrian Empire? We were, Scar replied, his voice carrying what sounded like anger. For 300 years, the Zephyrians have told us we were too primitive to govern ourselves. They said our warrior culture was backwards, that we needed their guidance to become civilized. And now? General Parker asked. Now we see humans fight a superior enemy with weapons and tactics that should not work, and yet you survive. You adapt. You overcome. Scar's eyes, which were yellow with vertical pupils, seemed to gleam. The Zephyrians told us this was impossible. They said no species could resist their evacuation protocols. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a map on her tablet. Are other species watching this conflict? 6 other client species have sent observers, Scar confirmed. The bird-like Veltai, the aquatic Merdan, the insectoid Kythera. All of them have been told by the Zephyrians that resistance to superior technology is futile. But we're proving them wrong, General Parker said. More than that, Scar replied. You are proving that the Zephyrian way is not the only way. For centuries, they have preached that survival comes from avoiding conflict, from building perfect systems that never fail. But your species shows that true survival comes from adaptation, from the ability to function when systems do fail. Engineer Kate Miller's voice came over the intercom from the technical section. General, we've made a breakthrough with the captured Zephyrian technology. You need to see this. They moved to the engineering section where Kate had a disassembled Zephyrian stun weapon spread across her workbench. Look at this, she said, pointing to the internal components. Their technology is incredibly sophisticated, but it's also incredibly fragile. One small modification and it works twice as well. What kind of modification? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Redundant power systems, impact dampening, variable output controls. Basically all the things we put in our equipment to make it work in the real world. Kate picked up a modified alien device. This stun weapon can now function in rain, cold, high altitude, and even partial vacuum. The original couldn't work if the air pressure was too different from standard. War Chief Scar examined the device with obvious interest. You have improved Zephyrian technology? We've made it more practical, Kate replied. More human. General Parker was studying tactical reports from around the globe. The pattern is consistent worldwide. Human forces are holding their ground not through superior firepower, but through superior adaptability. We're fighting in conditions the Zephyrians can't handle. Desert heat, Arctic cold, underwater, in thin mountain air, Dr. Rodriguez added, reading from her own reports. Humans are operating effectively in environments where Zephyrian equipment simply fails. Scar turned to his companions and spoke in his own language, a series of growls and hisses that somehow sounded like approval. My people have made a decision, he announced. The Skarn Republic formally withdraws from the Zephyrian Empire. What does that mean? General Parker asked. It means civil war, Scar replied grimly. The Zephyrians will not accept our independence. But watching your species has taught us something important. Survival is not about building perfect systems. It is about building systems that can survive imperfection. Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. General, we're receiving similar declarations from other species. The Veltai have declared independence, so have the Merdan. How many species are rebelling? General Parker asked. 7 so far, Dr. Rodriguez replied. And more are considering it. The human resistance is inspiring revolts across the Zephyrian Empire. War Chief Scar showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. The Zephyrians created this situation when they tried to demonstrate their power by conquering humanity. Instead, they have demonstrated their weakness. Captain Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from orbit. Ground control. We're seeing massive ship movements throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet is splitting up to deal with multiple rebellions. How does this help us? General Parker asked. It means they can't concentrate their full force on Earth anymore, Scar explained, and it means we can share knowledge. My people know Zephyrian technology. Your people know how to make technology that actually works in combat conditions. Kate Miller was already taking notes. If we could combine Zephyrian advanced systems with human engineering principles, we could build ships and weapons that neither species could create alone. Dr. Rodriguez finished. General Parker looked around the room at the humans and aliens working together. Are you proposing an alliance? I am proposing survival, Scar replied. The Zephyrians will not give up easily. They have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. But they have made a critical error. They have shown other species that resistance is possible. And they've shown us that we're not the monsters they thought we were. Dr. Rodriguez added. We're teachers. We're showing the galaxy how to be strong. Commander Cooper's voice came through on his radio from his position above the planet. General, long-range sensors are detecting a massive Zephyrian fleet heading this way. Looks like they're bringing everything they have. General Parker nodded grimly. Then we'd better be ready for them. How long do we have? 48 hours, sir. Scar hefted one of Kate's modified weapons. 48 hours to prepare for the battle that will determine the future of the galaxy. Will humanity and its new allies be ready? General Parker looked around at the mixture of human determination and alien hope in the room. We'll have to be, because if we lose this fight, freedom dies with us. Outside, the first ships of the Allied fleet began arriving, carrying species that had never fought together but were united by a simple truth that humans had taught them. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the galaxy is not a weapon or a fleet, but an idea. And the idea that survival comes from strength, not submission, was spreading faster than any Zephyrian technology could contain. The bridge of the Zephyrian flagship Eternal Harmony shook as another human missile struck its shields. Supreme Admiral Zethara gripped her command chair, her elegant features twisted with frustration and fear. Through the view screen, she watched, human and rebel ships swarming around her massive fleet like angry insects. Strategic analysis, she commanded her science officer. The human vessels continue to function despite damage that should disable them completely, came the reply. Their ships appear designed to operate while failing. We do not understand this principle. Zethara stared at the tactical display. Her fleet of 3,000 ships should have easily crushed the combined human and rebel forces. Instead, the battle had been raging for 6 hours with no clear victor. Worse, her ships were retreating whenever the fighting became too intense, while the enemy seemed to fight harder when damaged. Supreme Admiral, called her communications officer, we are receiving a transmission from the human command ship. The screen changed to show Captain Jake Morrison on the bridge of his battle-scarred vessel. Behind him, Zethara could see smoke and sparks, yet the human looked calm and determined. Supreme Admiral Zethara, Jake said, I'm Captain Morrison, of the Earth Defense Force. I'm requesting you surrender your fleet and withdraw from human space. Impossible, Zethara replied. Your species represents an unacceptable threat to galactic order. No, came another voice as War Chief Scar appeared on the screen beside Jake. Our species represent the future of galactic order, an order based on strength and adaptation, not fear and control. Zethara's science officer interrupted. Supreme Admiral, we are detecting massive power buildup in the human flagship. They appear to be preparing some kind of weapon. On the screen, Jake Morrison looked grim. Admiral, we've spent the last 2 days studying your technology. Dr. Tony Clark and engineer Kate Miller have made some interesting discoveries about your flagship's design. What discoveries? Zethara demanded. Dr. Clark's voice came through. The communication system. Your ship is powered by a single massive core with no backup systems. If that core fails, your entire ship shuts down. You built it to be perfect, but perfection is fragile. We have developed a weapon that can overload your core, Kate Miller added. Not destroy it, just overwhelm it with feedback. Your ship will go dead in space, but your crew will be unharmed. Zethara felt a chill run through her body. You would not dare attack a diplomatic vessel. You're not here for diplomacy, Jake replied. You're here with planet-killer weapons to commit genocide. We know because we captured the technical specifications from your advanced ships, the tactical officer called out in alarm. Supreme Admiral, enemy ships are moving into attack formation. The weapon readings are unlike anything in our database. Commander, Helen Davis appeared on the communication screen next to Jake and Scar. Admiral, you have 60 seconds to order your fleet to withdraw. After that, we disable your flagship and any other ship that doesn't retreat. This is impossible, Zethara said, though her voice shook. Your species lacks the technology to threaten us. Our species lacks your technology, Dr. Rodriguez corrected, joining the conversation. But we've improved it. We've made it stronger, more adaptable, more resilient. We've made it human. Zethara looked at her tactical display. More than half her fleet was already showing damage from the fighting. Ships that should have been invincible were limping away from combat with species they had considered primitive. Her perfect technology was failing against enemies who refused to fight by the rules. "Supreme Admiral," her science officer reported, "we are receiving communications from the rebel species. They are offering terms for our surrender." Terms? War Chief Scar's image dominated the screen. "We offer the Zephyrian Empire a choice. Join the new Galactic Alliance as equals, or face war with 7 species who have learned human tactics and use human-improved technology." "What alliance?" Zethara asked. "The one forming right now," Jake Morrison replied. "Humans, Skarn, Veltai, Mirdan Cathera, and 3 other species, all united by the principle that survival comes from strength and adaptation, not from hiding behind perfect systems." Dr. Amy Rodriguez stepped into view. "Admiral, we're not trying to destroy the Zephyrian Empire, we're trying to save it. Your species has incredible knowledge and technology, but you've forgotten how to face challenges. You've become so focused on avoiding problems that you can't solve them when they appear. The galaxy faces real threats," added Commander Davis. "Dying stars, resource depletion, climate change on dozens of worlds. Problems that require the kind of adaptability and resilience that humans represent." Zethara's communication officer spoke urgently. "Supreme Admiral, we are receiving reports from across the Empire. 17 more species have declared independence. Our remaining client worlds are demanding representation in government decisions." "The Empire is crumbling," Scar observed. "But it doesn't have to end. It can transform into something better." Jake Morrison leaned forward. "Admiral, we're offering you a partnership. Human adaptability combined with Zephyrian knowledge. Rebel strength supporting Imperial wisdom. A galaxy that faces problems instead of avoiding them." 30 seconds, Commander Davis announced. "Make your choice." Zethara looked around her bridge at officers who had served the Empire faithfully for decades. They were brilliant beings who had solved countless technical problems, but they had never faced a situation like this. Their perfect systems were failing because reality was imperfect. "What would this alliance require?" she asked quietly. "Equality," Jake replied. "No, more client species, no more superior races. All members have equal voice in decisions that affect them. And no more quarantines," Dr. Rodriguez added. "No more declaring species too dangerous to exist. We solve problems together, we don't eliminate them." 10 seconds, Commander Davis warned. Zethara closed her large, dark eyes and made the hardest decision of her life. "All ships stand down, cease offensive operations, and prepare for negotiations." The bridge fell silent except for the sound of damaged systems. On the view screen, she could see the relief on both human and alien faces. "Admiral," Jake Morrison said, "you've just saved 2 civilizations, maybe more." "Have I?" Zethara asked. "Or have I just admitted that everything my species believed was wrong?" "You've admitted that perfection isn't the goal," Dr. Rodriguez replied gently. "Survival is. Growth is. Helping each other face challenges is." 3 months later, Zethara stood in the new Galactic Alliance headquarters on a space station built using combined human and Zephyrian technology. Through the observation deck, she watched human ships working alongside Skarn vessels to evacuate populations from a dying star system. Ambassador Lisa Grant joined her at the window. "Amazing what we can accomplish when we work together." "Indeed," Zethara agreed. "My people spent centuries trying to create perfect conditions for life. Your people spent centuries learning to live in imperfect conditions. Together, we can do both." On the view screen, a human rescue ship emerged from the dangerous radiation near the dying star, carrying survivors that no Zephyrian vessel could have reached. The ship was damaged and smoking, but it was still flying. "That's what we learned from you," Zethara said quietly. "True strength isn't avoiding the storm. It's learning to fly through it." The galaxy had learned that the most dangerous life support system wasn't a threat to be contained. It was a gift to be shared.